Hey, welcome to another episode of the Rabblings of a Designer podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest in graphic design news from around the web. I'm your host, Adan Zepeda. I'm a freelance designer from the San Francisco Bay Area. I specialize in visual and UI design with a little bit of illustration. And every week I'm joined by my co-host, Terri. How you doing, Terri?
All right, sounds good. Hi, my name is Terri. Just like Adam said, I'm one of the co-hosts. I'm a UX UI designer from the Bay Area, in which I create end-to-end flows on various digital products.
Every week we like to talk a little bit how our previous week went. So Terri, how did it go?
It went pretty good. I am still developing my code. I'm not scared of the HTML code that much anymore, so I've been trying to play around with it. And then I have been madly trying to get my files in Sketch a lot organized because I have a bad habit. When I'm doing a freelance project, I just go in design and just add, and I don't go back. So I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful of that, even though they're just my files. But when I go back to my files, it's like, oh, wait, how did I do this again? So definitely, whenever you start a project, have them nice and clean as possible. And then I am doing another side little project, which I did a survey and I'm doing research on that. So that will be a little bit more to come once I discover something about you. Okay. How about you, Adam? How was your week?
Let's see. I lost a tooth. I finally got a wisdom tooth removed that I guess I should have gotten rid of a long time ago. And it was weird because everyone was saying that it was going to be like this really terrible experience and my week was going to be all ruined and I wasn't going to get to eat anything. And like it really wasn't that bad. I don't know what magical thing happened, but like the pain wasn't really too bad. I was in and out of that place in like 10 minutes. But then I went to the pharmacy and like I got all this pain medication and I got extra ice packs and I thought I was just gonna be like in my room all weekend, all with the ice pack, all feeling all miserable. But no, like it was weird. Like even the surgeon called me later that night and he was like, "Hey, so how is everything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine, I guess." And I was like, he's like, "Oh, it doesn't really hurt?" I was like, "No, I mean, I guess I'm just waiting for it to hurt, to get really bad tomorrow." And he's like, "No, like however you feel now is kind of how you're gonna feel the next day." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so, yeah, like everything turned out surprisingly well, and I'm a little worried now because I wonder what's gonna happen because of it. But so far, so good. Let's see. I have a lot of interesting conversations about my future all last week. Nothing really. Just a lot of talks, not a lot of much else. So we'll see what develops within the next coming month. And that's all I got to say about that. And I joined my first Slack channel.
Yay!
Well,
congrats on the Slack channel because it's awesome.
When we had our talk, when we talked about joining Slack, I went out and I searched for a bunch of them and I joined like 5 or 6 of them. I don't know. We joined like a bunch of them. And I've never heard back. So I don't know how Slack channels are supposed to work, but nobody adds me. And so one finally did. And so I got to hang out. And then yeah, so far, I mean, not much happens. It's just a lot of the only page or the channel that's really popular is the introduction channel.
Well, if you actually go into Slack, they there's a little thing up there. It says channels, and they have a little plus. And when you hit the plus, there's all these different rooms that of you can enter and stuff. Yeah, definitely enter some.
No, have you done that? I was in there. I tried each room, but like nothing was going on. So I didn't pick the lively one, or maybe it was like at the wrong time where everybody's was having dinner or something.
Yeah. Well, normally when you go into the Slack channel, you can say your question and then wait a couple days and maybe somebody will answer, or you can ask a question up to somebody else and 9 times out of 10 they will answer. But also too, I had a real quick
Hmm.
question about your tooth. So, did you bring your tooth home? Are you going to put it underneath your pillow? And maybe the tooth fairy might come and might grant you some more information on
Well,
your future.
here's the thing. I guess the wisdom tooth removal process isn't like yanking a tooth out, like you see in the dental in like cartoons or whatever. What he had to do, because he was kind of describing it to me in kind of very vivid detail. He was saying like, oh, first I'm gonna like drill into your tooth, and then I'm gonna crack it in half, and then I'm gonna have to crack it in half again. And then so as he was doing it, he was like, all right, you're gonna hear a little crack, and I was like, ugh, because he would like crack and like, just the vision of what's happening. Uh, I I'm like, don't tell me these things. I don't need to know. I don't need to know what you're doing. Just knock me out or something. But I had to like be wide awake as I see all this stuff. Luckily, I'm pretty sure it gets really bloody, and so luckily I didn't get to see it. But you know, uh, they gave me some nice cool glasses that I could see, that I could have something falls in my eyes, and everything was tinted. They should have those tinted red so that if stuff splatters, I'm not going to be freaked out by it. But it was tinted yellow.
Sorry, I'm just sitting here, just kind of laughing and trying not to make noise because, like, I can visualize you in your dentist chair and like blood's coming, like splat, 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 and then it's like of a movie. You have like popcorn, but you're not really popcorn, but they're actually doing the movie on you because they're pulling out your tooth. But anyways, it's just kind of funny. But yeah, I I hear you. I had my wisdom teeth, all four of them pulled at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was in high school. So that was not fun, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I got down and they put like cotton balls and
Yeah.
when you're trying to talk and stuff. But hey, I will still advise you to maybe draw like a fake tooth, put it underneath your pillow, make a wish, and see what happens.
I think you could just buy those on eBay. So I think I just might get a wisdom tooth on eBay and then put it under my pillow and see what happens.
Hey, stranger things has happened. The universe has its own way of magically stuff happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of weird. But it does happen. I know people might say that's very hippie-ish or, a little bit too over positive thinking, or I don't know. But it works. You put it out there. It happens. Other boomerang, you throw it and it comes back. For sure.
Can I just keep the pieces? I'm gonna try putting it under my pillow.
Hey, you can super glue, you can tape it, Okay, anyway, enough about your tooth. I don't think people want to hear about your tooth. But anyways. Okay, back to you. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Well, that was my week. So let's get into the news. So I have one article for just the headlines, and it was really just talking about Facebook's terrible week last week. So I'm pretty sure you heard about it because it was kind of all around the news. Stock dropped 20%, and they lost $120 billion.
Oh, you know how many houses they can buy in Silicon Valley for that? For people who can't even afford homes over here? That's just nuts.
I find it kind of crazy how a company could literally lose $120 billion and then still be okay. They're like, oh yeah, that's
Oh, that's
I mean,
change.
yeah, we're in a rough patch, but we'll go. I was like, $120 billion. Like some of them, that's like two companies put into one. Like just the amount of value that is, probably multiple companies.
But
like,
you know how much money that's like scholarship money for individuals or people that want to go back to college, or single parents, or individuals that haven't even gone to college yet because maybe they missed their opportunity or it just didn't happen and they wanted to go back. That's a lot of peoples. magnified that like in a Chinese big bowl of rice or something. That's how many people I can probably send to college or get an education or some kind of trade. That's just nuts to me. Wow.
If I had $120 billion, I would I could live like a king for the rest of my life and still have $119 billion left over when I died. Like that's how much $120 billion is. Like
Man, if I had that kind of money, like I said, my family and then scholarships, make sure I'm set, paid off my student loans, and then the rest have a certain amount that I can live out the rest of my life perfectly, and then the rest I'll probably just, I don't say give it away, but have, scholarships for other people that want to either change careers or whatnot, because gotta give back, man. Gotta give back. You can't hoard everything because that's never good.
with that money, I could actually afford an Adobe CC subscription.
Why would you want one? But actually, you do need Illustrator here and there and Photoshop here and there. Sketch can't do everything.
Yeah.
That's
All
funny.
right. So for my first article of the day, I got this one is from, oh man, I kind of forgot where this is from. This is from Creative Block. And it talks about that Adobe, it's the title is Adobe shares Pantone's summer trending colors. So pretty much the article is saying that they teamed up with Pantone, or Adobe teamed up with Pantone to talk about what colors are trending this summer. And those colors tend to be really bold and saturated colors. And so the ones that they described were lime green, Hawaiian ocean, flame orange, fuchsia purple, cherry tomato, blazing yellow, and dazzling blue. So unfortunately, I have no idea what that means in actual color. I mean, I get lime green, but what's Hawaiian ocean? Like,
Come on, what is not to like about the Hawaiian ocean?
Don't get me wrong, the name sounds great, but I don't know what color that is. So the article pretty much says if you're looking to make some sort of piece and you want to really stand out, that or be as trendy as everybody else, go with these really bold and saturated colors. What do you think about the summer trending colors?
Wow, colors are great, but for me, I stick to black because black is slimmy. Sorry, just had to point that out.
Hey, lean UX, you just go with black, right?
Yeah, black all the way. That's funny. Going back to the colors, yes, definitely colors bring out the pieces that pop, or maybe you don't want to pop it too much because depending on your audience and depending on what kind of project you are working on and what kind of, I would say, personality to the piece or to the app or to the website, or it can be a print piece, or it can be a logo, or it can be some exhibition at a conference, say, or even of a slide deck. It just really depends on a lot of on what the designer is going for and regarding of the audience as well. But those names are pretty awesome. They're very creative. They kind of remind me of the ice creams.
Okay. Yeah. Lime green does sound like a food.
Yeah. Like a food of Ben and Jerry's ice creams, they have different names and stuff. I don't remember the names, but I just remember Ben and Jerry's something, but Garcia, Rocky Road, something. I don't remember, but I don't eat ice cream a lot either. But yeah, that just kind of reminded me of that. Kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I really had to work on a project where I got to use colors that weren't the brand colors. And so it'd be nice to experiment a little bit with these colors as well.
Well, that's when you want to experiment with colors, you have the opportunity to build out your portfolio pieces. Just say you're like, oh, I haven't updated my portfolio in 3 years. Well, you may have a project in there that might be a little old, maybe on an iPhone 7 or 4 or on a tablet. So you can take that same concept and just update it with the colors, the imagery, and maybe add a feature to the app. Because when you're working for a company or you're working on a project, the apps, they start in one place and then they add on to it. They make changes because everything in the industry just changed. So, little tidbit there.
If you wanna actually see some of the colors in action, go to Creative Block and look up Adobe Shares Pantone Summer Trend colors, and they have examples of those colors in action. So yeah, so that's my one. That's one of my articles. Terry, what do you have?
Okay, thank you. That was very insightful. Colors are great. Well, there's an article that is written by Dan Brown. And I actually met Dan Brown when I went to the UX conference back in Seattle. It was in March of this past year, and he was phenomenal. Very nice man. If you guys can see him in person or on tape or film or his books, buy his books. He's a very insightful, front edge designer. So anyway, Dan Brown is actually a co-founder at 8 Shapes, and he actually wrote an article on his 8 Shapes. It's called The Delegation Art of Interviewing Stakeholders. And I picked this article because he goes into different techniques how to interview. Either they're users or they are collaborators or they're stakeholders. So it's really interesting how he describes either the outcome of the project, or it would be a success, or maybe it could be a failure. But either way, you're learning, you're growing of what worked and what didn't work. So it's very interesting how he says a couple of the questions. So basically, I'll just do the first 2. These are the most typical questions he would include. Describe the purpose of this project in your own words. So again, he's kind of putting you on the spot of like, oh, so what is this project? Is there a purpose? How is there a purpose? So on the flip side, you're going to have to engage the stakeholders and tell them the reasons why. So, and the second one is, what is the most important thing for us to get right? To me, that is a loaded question, because again, it depends on what are the priorities of the projects and the insight and everything else that might be going on. So it just keeps on going. And, he just gives some advice like, don't expect all the answers at once, because design changes, the real craft vision changes and the goals change here and there, again, depending on the project. And he keeps going on to talk about, ask the right questions, and he just keeps going on. And then, yeah, it's really good. So what do you think, Adam?
Yeah, from my experience dealing with clients, when we're trying to get these questions answered, it almost seems like they don't know the answers themselves. Like I've always asked them, like, what's what would you say is the objective of this? How do you measure if the project is a success or not? And or like who's your target audience? And sometimes they're like, we're doing it's almost as if they know they need something done, but they haven't thought about it through enough where they can really give you a logical answer. And then so you're kind of left like, you're kind of ruining this for the both of us, because I'm going to try to go in with my own objectives of what I think this will be, and we're going to have miscommunication, and I can feel it. And so like, I know I'm kind of having that right now, where I'm doing this. I'm in initial talks to work on this conference website. and just trying to get some of these questions out answered, it's kind of difficult because they don't know all the answers yet. They've done it in the past, but they don't really have all these full answers, and so it's a little frustrating, but oh well.
Well, sometimes frustration can lead into new insights that what you're trying to discover, and sometimes that's the only way to go. And then if you're getting stuck on something, then try a different avenue to ask them
Yeah.
as well. Just don't give up, and B, just keep asking until you get something from them.
Yeah, I think my strategy now is to kind of do like a brainstorming workshop with them, and then that way I could work out what my ideas are, and I could run it by them before I do anything. I'm like, hey, it's for a conference, so I was thinking maybe we should do this cloud kind of aesthetic, since we're talking with clouds. I can do this cloud feature. What do you think about that? So instead of I think I've been listening to a lot of The Future with what's his name? Sorry, let me look him up. Christo, with the Christo, and what he was saying, what they were talking about is that you don't want to surprise the client with the design presentation, that because then right away, if they don't like it, then you're screwed. Whereas if you talk about it and collaborate with them ahead of time, they already know what they're getting into, and so they'll be less likely to be kind of disappointed. And so I'm going to try doing a workshop with that for this project and see how that works out.
Are you going to go in site with them in person?
No. This will just be a phone interview, a phone interview.
Oh.
Yeah, because I mean, it could be on site, but we live in the future and we don't have to be with them all the time. And you're writing everything down, and then that way, all you can do is just make sure you write everything down, take notes, and then send them an email. Be like, look, we just had this conversation based on what we talked about. I'm going to go in this direction and in this direction, and we're going to see what we come up with.
Interesting.
Why? What do you think?
No, there's what I'm trying to think of. The program is called the Real-Time Board. Mm-hmm. And you can actually whiteboard in person, because I know Envision has that, I think, as well. And mm-hmm. there's different techniques that you can bring them in on a call, or maybe Google Hangouts might have something like of a whiteboarding, and then you invite the person in, and then you guys can whiteboard together.
That's cool.
And they feel like they are part of the process, because they're helping you, as you mentioned before, even though you guys may be in separate locations, but if you bring them together and they're drawing with you, then 99.99999% their guard will actually be down. And as you mentioned before, you guys would be doing it together, not separate, but together as a team, and you may find more information without really asking the questions, because the questions will come as they're doing it, per se.
Yeah, see, that's what I want. I want the questions happening or being answered as we do it, because then that way it's like I'm painting the picture for them automatically, and then they can be like, well, what about this? Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's throw that in there. Yeah. And then not so like I don't have to redesign more stuff later.
That's why I'm saying, if you can try Real Board Time, or find of an application that's kind of like that, to have them see you draw it, because just by talking, so when you close your eyes and you're talking about something, it's hard to picture what the person is talking about, because your picture is different than my picture. But if you folks are all on the same page, or the same, they're drawing and you're drawing, it's right there. It's tangible. Right, they can see it. So just try it and see.
Yeah, well, I'll have to do research on that, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that idea. Let's see. So my next article. Oh, were you done with yours?
I have one more article, but do you want to go, or I can go, or do you want to do
No, Rochambeau.
junk in a poll?
Wait, what? Oh,
Junk in
what's
a
that?
poll.
I never heard of that.
Well, back in Hawaii, we say junk in a poll.
I've heard of like 1, 2, 3 shoot, and I forgot what I used to call it before. But then we used to call it. Then later I heard about Rochambeau, but we used to call it before. I forgot what it was. Oh well.
Paper, scissors, rock.
Yeah. Maybe no. Yeah. I guess it was paper scissors rock. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. You say,
You know
junk in a
that
poll. Like you're like, what?
you know that obscure reference, paper scissors rocks. Yeah.
Yeah. Paper, scissors, rock.
Yeah.
Bam.
Okay, I'll go. So my next article is from Medium, and this was just an article that talks about the top 5 hot graphic design trends going on right now. And there's 5 of them. I think I'll just go through all 5 of them this time. So the top 5. Number 1, they talk about ancient sculptures in 3D. And so this is where they take some sculpture from the past, from the Roman Renaissance period, and they throw it into their modern design. And so you'll just see like a bust, a Roman bust, or sometimes what I'm seeing too is where they'll like chop it up or slice it in some interesting way. And so for some reason they have to cut up all these poor busts. And so they'll do that. And lately online, or at least on Reddit, I was seeing like 2 kind of design trends that are very similar to this. One was called vaporwave aesthetic, and another one was called outrun. And these were just kind of both taking designs or design colors and inspirations from the 80s. And so with vaporwave aesthetics, it's very like purpley and like kind of pastels in a way with these kind of Roman busts. And outrun is kind of more like when you think of like retro 80s black kind of cool neon type of designs. So I've been seeing that a lot. I guess that's what she might be talking about as well in this article. I think it's a she. Yes. And the second one is organic shapes filled with funky gradients. And this is something I definitely have been seeing around a lot. It's just like it kind of looks like if you were mixing colors, paint colors. You know how you kind of mix it and then you have these kind of weird kind of blends of colors and different gradients and stuff. That's sort of what they're talking about here. I don't really know how they make some of these. I'm thinking you could probably use the smear brush in Photoshop or something. But yeah, that's another trend. Number 2, this is definitely one I've always seen since for the longest time, is dual tone. That's where like you kind of you use either a gradient to it's like if you converted an image to black and white and then you added like a gradient over it, or you added one solid color over it, and then you had like a background of a different color. It's just the blend. It's just messing around with different colors in a way, it's just like a mixture between different colors, and like the dark colors, all the shadows and dark colors are one color, and the lighter tones are in a different color. So dual tone is another one. Number 4 is ruined, torn, or painted collages. And yeah, that's where kind of like you see strips of photos where one side is one thing, or like there's a person's face and their eyes have been ripped out from paper, and then there's like the text in there. Yeah, and then the last one is Mondrianism, and that's where they take inspiration from the artist Pete Mondrian, and he did a lot with kind of modular rectangular designs, and the rectangulars were filled with different primary colors. And so they're saying that people are kind of taking that kind of aesthetic as well and making all these different splits and cuts in their grids to make all these interesting patterns. So yeah, what do you feel about these latest design trends?
I think they're very interesting. I definitely have seen a few of them, and designers or non-designers, they just see art and they just make it into their own. Definitely, when I was in graduate school, I did a lot of the collaging, a lot of the rip the paper. I would use like tea and coffee and jelly and just any kind of liquid to add water to make the ochres and the yellows and the stains into my prints, and then tore them up and then pasted again, and just, you know, a layer on layer on a layer. So definitely they have a tactile feel to it. And which that can be very important as well, because it shows, you know, not only the aesthetics of it, but just of the history of how it was done and the detail that will take. So it's definitely something to look at and something to learn from as well.
Yeah, like I know for me, like I always see all these cool things, right? When you're searching for design inspiration, and then I always worried that I was like, oh, you know, I can't really do something like that because I'm seeing it everywhere now. But then the thing is, like, I never really see it everywhere. I really only see it in different design forums, and I never see it out in the world. And then I always feel like when I finally do see it, it's like way later. And so I kind of feel like the rest of the world catches up to what we're doing in the design community. So I don't know. That's why I'm always kind of hesitant to kind of like try some of these effects out, because I was like, you know, it's just like it's a fad in a way.
Well, I mean, isn't everything of a fad? I mean, when you think about it, you know, there was the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, or in the 2000s, and things change. People change. I'm sure you're not the same person that you were, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or maybe even last year. So everything does definitely change. Art changes, fashion changes, even food changes. Even people, I mean, not people, but like doctors are saying, oh, this is healthy for you. This is not healthy for you. So
I know.
things do change, and you know, nothing really sits still that much. Even the whole people building in different cities, you know, tearing down old homes and making new homes. So everything does change sooner or later, but not everything. But I mean, there's some places on this earth that they won't change because they are either protected per se.
Right now, I know for me, or at least growing up, as an entrepreneur, as like a designer, I'm like, oh, you know, I kind of want to go through these fads and design that way, because then in a way, chasing the fad always keep me working, because I'm like, oh, you know what, your design's too old. Your design from 6 months ago is too old now. We need to update it now with this fresh fad. So let's just keep updating your website. You know. And so I'm like, well, if you're able to convince a client to do that, then their site will always look trendy for like 6 months, and then you could always just have them have a redesign. But it doesn't really work that way.
Well, actually, that's a great question. So if you have a website, if folks are listening out there, how often do you change your website? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? What?
Yeah, every 3 to 4 years when you find the time. It's such a big process.
It is, but it's something that you have to do to stay in the field and to be relevant in a way.
Feel so, like for all those people who had designed their perfect website in Flash, and then they had to go and redesign everything. Like, that must have been terrible.
Well, like I said, things are changing, and it will always move. I don't think it will ever stay static. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it will, but I don't think so.
Nah, I think that which does not evolve and grows dies.
Ooh, atomism. I like that. Ooh, that was, man, you're getting deep. You're getting deep on a Monday night. That's great. That means you're vegan.
I'm pretty sure I ripped that off from somebody, but I just don't remember who.
So credit out to somebody out there.
Yeah, yeah. To that very wise person out there, I'm crediting you somewhere.
It must have been your mom.
It could be, yeah.
Because moms are always right. Well, not always, but in most cases.
Yeah, so that was my article. That was my last article. Terry, what about you? Do you have any other articles?
Yes, I do. This is an article from A List Apart. It is a book series, actually. But this article, it is kind of old, but I thought it was still interesting because this is how we hold our gadgets. It's by Josh Clark from November 3rd, 2015. Yes, I know it's a little bit outdated, but still, I still see people how they hold their fingers, or not their fingers, but hold their hands with their devices. If it's their phone, their tablet, how are they, are they using their thumbs? Are they using both of their thumbs, right thumbs? Do they pigeon peck one, left, right, anything? So it's just of a study that confirms what many ways of users having their own phones, of what habits. Do they grip? Do they use the handhelds? Do they also shift them back and forth? So it's just very interesting how it tells you, oh, the screen on the phone is like, okay, the yellow part is okay, and the green part is easy and accurate. So I'm just looking at one of the images and stuff as I'm scrolling down. So it's a very interesting way to show how the tablet and the phones are, because it kind of gives you the guideline, what's easy, what's hard, and what's like right in the middle, like red zone, very hard, for either the right thumb or the left thumb to get to. And then, hybrids and laptops, and they say slap a key on it, and that's what it is. And then I'll just read this little interesting little quote. Well, not a quote, but a little statement here. If scaling up the screen size has such a dramatic effect on how we hold devices, it should come no surprise that adding a keyboard shakes things up even more. So again, if you have a keyboard, so they're talking about the postures, there's like how their hands, their arms, do they shift to accommodate the keyboard, or do they not? So again, hybrid touchscreens, keyboards, combination with them in the wild, and I just thought it was just very interesting how far we came from 2015 until now. So that's all I have.
Yeah,
So
I feel like for me as a left-hander, it's never made for me, because they're always made for right hands, with their okay and easy and accurate way to touch. Like for me, I'm like, oh man, everything's in the wrong spot.
That's true.
Yeah.
Left hands.
And for me, I think I'm a little paranoid, but I mainly always use my phone with two hands. And that's because I ride the BART a lot, and they always say, you better watch your phone because somebody's gonna rip it off and run off with it. And so I always kind of like hold it like I'm like it's gonna escape from me at any minute. And so I paw it like, I don't know, I don't even know. Like I barely have any. I can't even see the screen because my hands are over it so much. that's how I hold it. It's like weird. No, but I do tend to hold it kind of at least with two hands, and trying to like at least make sure that I'm mainly using my thumbs, and I don't know. But yeah, for me, all this, at least for as a user, none of this stuff seems to be relevant for me, because everything is always off. And then but it is true that everything in the corners is super hard to get. And so luckily for the iPhones, they have that touch where if you do the double touch, not a tap, but just a double touch on the home screen, it'll shift the whole screen down halfway, so you're able to get the things in the very top. And so I definitely use that feature a lot.
Man, you do? I always hit it on accident. It's like, Dope. Where's it going?
Yeah.
I want to go up. I'm like, yeah, I always get that gibberish.
Sometimes I forget that I do, or I do it not on, like, when I'm not even trying. Like, oh man, all right. But then, so that kind of messes me up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's it for the night. Terri, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter, which is Flaxen Inc. FLAXENINK.
And you can find me on Twitter at Adan Zepeda. That's AdanZepeda. And that's it.
Yes, it is. But the next time, our next podcast, we have a little something different.
Yeah, we're going to try to do something a little different. So stay tuned.
Sounds good.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody. Aloha.
Bye.